Welcome back to Legalese 123, where we are covering cases across America. Hello and welcome back to Legalese 123. Guess what? We are still on day 7 of the Kouri Richins trial, and what do we have going on? Oh my goodness. We are still talking about 299 Barnaby. What is 299 Barnaby? 299 Barnaby is a house that Kouri Richins purchased for her friend Chelsea Barnaby and her family. Chelsea had given her a $45,000 deposit. No papers were signed, I don't think. They were going to then refinance, and the home was going to be then financed. And it sounds like Kouri was going to be the finance lender. I don't know. Long story short, Kouri Richins, who had no money, decided to buy this house, used the documents from her husband's business account, forged it onto her bank account to make it look like she had money in the bank, to get this hard money lender to give her the money for this Barnaby house. This was due in January of 2022. Ideally, apparently to this text message, she was going to refinance, and whammo shablammo, everything was going to be good. She didn't do that. She took the $45,000. She paid off some debt that she had because she was very much in debt, and took $19,000 of that and paid off one of the payday loans that she had. What happened to the house? We know that it's in foreclosure, but from there, we don't know. So we are going to pick up where we left off, and hopefully we can find more about what happened to the Barnaby house and what happened to their friendship. Because ultimately, she don't live there no more. And/or Kouri got arrested. I don't know. It just sounds like the car was impounded and I got arrested. Something my mom. Oh, I gotta go look up those lyrics. So we are after lunch.
Invite the jury back in.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Nestor.
No, sir.
Okay. Keisha, we're ready for the jury.
The car was impounded. Parents just don't understand, right? Let's see if I can get it. What? I want the lyrics. No, I can't play it. My parents went away on a week's vacation. They left the keys to my brand new Porsche. Wouldn't they mind? Well, no, of course not. I'll just take it out for a little bit of spin and show it off to a couple of friends that's just cruising around the neighborhood. Maybe I shouldn't. Oh, yes, of course I should. Pay attention. Here's the thick of the plot. I pulled up to the corner at the end of my block. Where is the okay, hang on. Yeah, here it was. I was arrested and the car was impounded. All right. Parents just don't understand. DJ Jazzy Jeff, right? Fresh Prince. Will Smith. All right.
Come in. All right, folks. Ms. Carrington. Ms. Carrington, you are still under oath. Mr. Bloodworth.
Thank you, Your Honor. Scott, can we please have 8-12? Your Honor, this is in evidence already if the court could publish.
Understood. One moment. There you are.
Ms. Carrington, do you recognize this home?
I do.
Is this one of the projects of Kouri Richins' real estate business?
Yes, it is.
Did she use Boomerang Finance to finance this project?
Yes, she did.
Thanks, Scott. Can I get 5-58, please? Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
I do.
And what is it?
This is an America First bank account statement for Kouri Richins Realty, K. Richins Realty, account 6577 from June of 2021. This is sent directly from Boomerang in response to a prosecution subpoena.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit 5-58.
Same objection.
5-58 is admitted.
Scott, if you could zoom in. Ma'am, what again does this information or does this statement present?
This is like the others. This is K. Richins Realty, the account 6577 for June 2021. And you can tell at the top, this came from Boomerang. And then the summary section says, calculates the three accounts. The total is $702,831.96 at the end of June.
Ma'am!
Did you attempt to verify this bank statement?
Yes, I did.
Scott, can I get 5-29B, please? Ma'am, what is this document?
This is directly from America First Credit Union for K. Richins Realty LLC 6577 for June of 2021 in response to a prosecution subpoena.
The state moves to enter 5-29B.
Same objections.
5-29B as in boy is admitted. Published now. Go ahead.
Again, Ms. Carrington, can
What is she trying to do? She trying to save herself by digging herself into more holes? Doesn't she realize that this is mortgage fraud and that she could be convicted of this, let alone anything else? Woman, now I'm just baffled at you. This is the
Can you
7th
show
time.
what information this bank statement presents?
K. Richins Realty at the PO Box 759, the account number 6577 for June of 2021. This came directly from the credit union, and the two accounts at the end of the month had the balances of $15,339.12.
Scott, 5-32 Charlie, please. Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
I do.
What is it?
This is the America First bank account statement for C&E Stone Masonry for June of 2021, the account number 7664 that came directly from the credit union in response to a subpoena from the prosecution.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit 5-32C.
Same objections.
5-
Let me guess, it has $702,000 in it. Oh my Lord. Oh my goodness
time.
gracious.
Okay. This is the America First bank account statement for C&E Stone Masonry, the account 7664 from June of 2021. This one came directly from the credit union, and you can see in the summary section the three accounts totaling $702,831.96.
Thank you. I want to switch gears a little bit now. You've used the term funding sources a couple of times. We're going to talk about funding sources, okay?
Okay.
Scott, can I get 5-93 Delta 2? Ma'am, did you recognize this document?
I do.
Did you prepare this document?
Yes.
What material did you use to prepare this document?
This is based on the lender documents, the loan documents from the lenders for each of the properties, the home equity line of credit, the bank account statements, settlement statements for the purchase and the sale, and the deeds, the trust deeds that were recorded with the different county recorder offices.
The state moves to admit 5-93D2.
Oh dear.
5-93D2 is admitted.
Okay, Ms. Carrington, it might be easiest to step down. I'll let you decide that, but can you explain to the jury the information presented on this document?
It might be easier if I step down.
It's up to you.
Would you turn the lab on? Thank you.
I'm going to try and do this without the pointer. So what I've done here along the bottom are just some phases of funding. And as far as the phases of funding, it's not a very hard and fast scientific analysis, but as I looked at all the transactions, they kind of fall into kind of different phases. And so what I've said is, she started a business in 2019. She had the one project early on, and then she had some other projects. And in the beginning, she used a primary lender, Sierra West and Matt Strong, and that's a name that I think you're going to hear over and over. So he's her primary lender for almost all of her, not all of them, but almost all of her projects, a significant number. And then in the very beginning, as we've already talked about, she used that HELOC, draws from the HELOC to fund the projects, the rehab expenses, until it was no longer available because it was maxed out. And in the very beginning, she had a little bit of cash. There's like a $10,000 or $15,000 that I can see coming from her own sources to pay for projects. And she had a seller financing project. And I should stop and say too, I'm sorry, I'm getting long-winded, but she had prior projects that she'd done in South Carolina. And those seemed to be fairly successful. They were smaller projects and they were before Utah, before she registered her business. So I've kind of left those off. But I do feel like to complete the picture, we need to talk about that. And then Cockerhands and Blackwell, those are two of her lenders so Matt Strong would be her primary lender. So she'd acquire the house with his funds. And then these would be what I'm terming, it's my term, rehab lenders. These are funds that she borrowed to give her money to fix up the house. So I have put these, what I'm trying to depict here, that as time went on, the proportions change a little bit. And then as time went on, the funding sources changed. So no longer was she using her own cash. That was only in the very beginning. And the HELOC was, as you've seen, remember the chart where it was maxed out pretty quickly.
Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, ask a question.
I'll ask a question. What changes from the first column to the second column?
Okay, from the first column, there's a HELOC and the seller financing and cash. Those don't appear in the second column because those are no longer available.
What changes from the second column to the third column?
The third column, you can see that the proportions change here. This is where we've talked about Iron Bridge and Boomerang, and Doreen Kouri, as you've heard, comes in. My understanding is that is Kouri Richins' aunt. The accounts receivable loans, those are those payday loans. We've talked a little bit about those. And then Cockerhands and Blackwell are still part of her lenders here.
How does Doreen Kouri contribute as a funding source?
As far as actual funds coming in, I have not been able to locate any funds that came in from her, but her name during this time period is used. She's on that operating agreement that's dated in June of 2021. They get submitted in the fall of 2021. Her credit is used for the Excel financing and the David E. Gay potential refinances. So she's part of that process. And she's also used for a lot of these payday loan applications. Doreen had a cleaning company, and I understand. And her name individually she's a guarantor on a lot of these payday loans.
So is it right then to summarize that she's a funding source because her name and credit is used, but she's not a funding source in terms of a source of cash?
I don't believe she's a funding source as a source of cash. I haven't been able to track any of that coming in from her. There might be some, but I've tried my best to identify every transaction. There's some that I still don't know, but definitely her credit and her name are used.
So what then changes from the third column to the fourth column?
What I attempt to show here is the growth during the fall and winter of 2021, the growth of the accounts receivable loans and Doreen Kouri. This is a time of intense activity in the fall. We've talked about October, November, December into the new year, and that's what that's supposed to show. Blackwell's dropped off until later. Those are the significant changes there.
And then what is the change from the fourth column to the final column?
So in early 2021, she had sold, Kouri Richins had sold the last significant project that she was going to sell for a while. And so there's not a whole lot of new funding activity except for what I've called the Legacy Way house. Some others are referring to it as the Midway Mansion. That's that big house that she buys and signs on the day after Eric Richins died. And what's different from this column to this column, you see this is all blue. Matt Strong is her primary lender on that house. But then also she uses Cockerhands and Blackwells and the Burns, and then these other Lieb, Soto, and Sills, all to come together. She uses all of those lenders just to acquire the property. So as opposed to somewhere over here, for example, where she uses Matt Strong to acquire the property, and then she uses these lenders for rehab funds, over here she uses all of those lenders just to acquire it, leaving nothing left over for rehab expenses.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We can trade mics now.
back on if you'd like.
Okay, ma'am, let's talk about the accounts receivable loans portion of that chart. What are accounts receivable loans?
So accounts receivables are future revenues that have been earned but haven't come in yet. They're coming in later. And pardon me, this is, you can call these factor loans or future receivables loans, but also payday loans. Like in exchange for $60,000 today, I'll pay you $87,000 down the road. That's what someone might say.
What receivables did Kouri Richins or K. Richins Realty have?
They had properties that were in the middle of rehabilitation, remodeling, whatever, and then would have been sold. So those, when they're sold, those are the revenues. So those are future receivables.
Scott, can I get 5-97D, please? Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
Yes,
Did you prepare it?
I did.
What material did you use to prepare it?
I used the bank account statements that we've talked about, the lending documents where I could find them as identified from the bank account statements. And then I did searches of the state's database, not the prosecution, but the state of Utah database for the UCC filings to identify some other information.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit 5-97D.
No objection.
5-97D is admitted.
Okay, ma'am. Scott, if you could just zoom in a little bit. Oh, you did. There we go. Ms. Carrington, what information does this present?
So these represent separate and distinct loans that Kouri Richins took out. The date is the date that the UCC filing was not. I need to explain UCC filings. Is that okay?
Please do.
Okay. If someone buys a piece of property, like a piece of land or a house or something, there's a deed that gets recorded at the county recorder office and then if they borrow against it, the loan gets recorded there, documented there in a trust deed. On the other hand, say someone buys a piano or a piece of equipment for their farm or something, that is not something that the lender can advertise to the world that they have an ownership interest in it until the loan's paid off. So they can't record it at the county recorder's office. So they file something with the state of Utah or whatever state they're in that says, I own this property until his borrower pays back the loan. And it's called a UCC filing. It's Uniform Commercial Code. And that's with the Department of Commerce at the state. So what I did is all public record. So I pulled up whatever UCC filings I could find under Kouri Richins, K. Richins Realty, GONE Kouri, any of those. And I was able to piece together a lot of information. And this is the result.
So does this present that she borrowed $645,000 of payday loans that she received? Well, that's the amount she owed, right? And then she received $474,000 of that?
Yeah, and I can see how I can make this a little bit better, but so then the column that starts with net funds, that's the amount that hit her bank account. And you can see that I've got some gray shaded areas. I can tell from her bank account that she's paying this loan, but there's sometimes I can't tell which funds came in. Like it says just bank to bank transfer, and I don't know which one applies to, for example, on June 5th of 2021, the funded.com. I can see how she starts to pay $149 monthly to funded.com, but I haven't been able to figure out, and they didn't file a UCC filing, so I don't know how much she borrowed. So I'm not going to make an assumption and put a value in there and calculate a number that I can't support. So the net funds column, she got at least $474,000 into her bank account.
And she owed them at least $645,000.
That's right. So the receivables purchased, so in my example they gave you a minute ago, she took out a loan. Okay, let's look down here. 9/30/2021, the Greengrass Holdings. So she committed $87,000 of her future receivables to get $60,000 today. And by the time origination fees were taken out, she got $54,000 that landed in her bank account. And in exchange for that, they filed a UCC filing later, actually. But the payment that Kouri Richins committed to was that payment that we've seen, that $5,438. And she committed to pay that every week until the loan was paid back. And so she got $54,000, but she had to pay back $87,000.
Let's follow that thread then. Scott, can I get 5-10, please?
Woman, what are you
Do you recognize
doing?
that document?
Yes, I do.
Is that the green grass funding revenue purchase agreement that you just referenced and showed the line item?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, the state moves 5-10 into evidence.
Did you fall asleep, Miss
Is
Nestor?
that the only page? It's just the agreement? Just 2 pages? I don't have an objection to that, Your Honor.
States 5-10 is admitted.
Scott, if we could zoom in on kind of the merchant information down to, yep, right there. Okay, Ms. Carrington, what does this tell us?
So this is the agreement between K. Richins Realty and other companies with Greengrass as of September 30th, 2021.
Did you investigate those other companies listed under the merchant's legal name?
Yes, I did.
What did you determine?
Some of these are related to Kouri Richins, like where she holds her contractor license or something else. And then the LTD's personal cleaning, I believe, is related to Doreen Kouri.
Other than the one related to Doreen Kouri. And is that, by the way, what you meant by Doreen Kouri as a funding source in part?
Your
Yes.
Honor, based on that, this line of questioning, I would object to this line of questioning, continuing objection on our prior objections.
Overruled. Please proceed.
Except for the LTD personal cleaning, did any of the other companies connected with Kouri Richins have revenues?
I don't believe so, no. It's possible the WCA Enterprises, she's got a couple of projects where the buyer is K. Richins Realty LLC doing business as WCA, but as a standalone enterprise, I had requested the state subpoena documents, bank accounts, or anything that would support the fact that they had revenues. And I'm not aware of any bank accounts that they have.
Scott, can you scroll down to the loan amounts
Girl.
right there? So is this what, if you can highlight that line at 60,000 to the right? I think you already did, but just to be super clear, can you please explain that line?
Okay, so this is the, someone might say, if I could have $60,000 today, I'll pay you $87,000 down the road. And that's what happened here. It was purchased at 15%. The payment frequency is weekly, and there's that $5,438 payment requirement.
And did we see some of those payments being withdrawn from her bank account in that October statement that we reviewed early on?
That's true, yes.
Did Kouri Richins continue to pay on that loan throughout the end of 2021 and into early 2022?
She did not.
Why not? What happened?
So this document, you can see at the very top of the document, this is from Kings County Court in New York, the very top right there. And the date there is December 9th, 2021. Greengrass filed a lawsuit against K. Richins Realty, all of these companies, Kouri Richins personally and Doreen Kouri personally, for non-payment of the debt. I can identify a small set of payments, and after that, payments were not made from the bank account, and that is also what the complaint says.
Objection to this whole line of questioning based on our former objections, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Scott, can I get 4-17, please? You recognize this document, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
This is the summons that's related to that lawsuit that I just explained. And I believe somewhere there's the seal on the document. Oh, it's the summons and the complaint.
State moves 4-17 into evidence.
Same objection plus hearsay.
Not sure this is. Would you approach regarding the hearsay objection?
Bottom line is that this girl was underwater so bad she could not get herself out. She was so underwater.
Yes.
Did you analyze Kouri Richins and Eric Richins' tax returns?
Yes, I did.
What types of returns did you analyze?
The joint the married filing joint returns for 1920, 21, the business returns for C&E, and a separate tax return for that Kouri Richins self-prepared for 2019.
How do each of the business returns relate to their joint personal return?
So Eric's business, he had a business partner, and their earnings that he and his business partner drew from the company were reported on a K-1. It's a document then that gets filed with their personal return. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be succinct. And Kouri Richins, having it be a one-person entity, all of her income, whether or not it was reported on K-1, would just flow through to the personal return, usually on a Schedule C.
So one way or another, each of their business income or business loss would flow to their joint personal return.
That's right.
Did you analyze KRR's, Kouri Richins Realty's return?
Yes.
Were her tax returns helpful in understanding her financial narrative?
If I answered that yes or no, it would require some explanation.
We'll start by yes or no.
Okay. Yes, it did help explain the lack of continuity and lack of reliable accounting. And no, because of that, the things that she reported to her tax preparer.
Objections, same objections we raised previously.
Would you approach for a minute?
If she self-prepared a tax return and she's underwater and defrauding the lenders, who says that she's not going to defraud the IRS? Just saying.
Rule on defendant's objection.
Oh,
Mr. Bloodworth, to help me rule on defendant's objection, would you please proffer for me where we're headed regarding the tax returns?
Yes, Your Honor. I think in response to that question and maybe the next one, Ms. Carrington will testify that K. Richins Realty's tax return were unhelpful for Ms. Carrington's analysis because Kouri Richins' expense reporting to her accountant was inaccurate.
Okay. And then where will we go after that regarding the tax returns?
The implication of the inaccurate expense reporting was that her tax returns showed a profit. Then there will be questioning on if the expenses were reported accurately, would they have shown a loss? There's a tax advantage to showing a loss. Why would you want to show, from a tax perspective, why wouldn't you want to take the loss? And then Ms. Carrington will testify that during these time frames, Ms. Richins was trying to attract funding, loans, and a tax return that showed a profit would help her attract loans.
Okay. Ms. Nestor, take it from there.
Well, now I have a new objection.
I imagine you have a couple.
I do.
Go ahead.
So, first of all, absolute speculation as to why, the loops you have to jump through to get that she's over-reporting her income to use it to get funding when there's zero evidence in this case that I've seen that she's ever produced her.
Pause there for a minute. Let's assume for the purposes of our discussion for the next few minutes that instead of opining about what was in Ms. Richins' head, Ms. Carrington, based upon her education, training, experience, talks about what real estate investors would need to show to attract funding and whether someone with a balance sheet that looked like Ms. Richins would need funding. So more general rather than specific.
Except that in this particular case, I know we have 10 terabytes of information that was produced, but I don't recall ever seeing any evidence that she produced her tax returns to any lenders ever. And if she has seen that, please correct me, but I've not seen it. So if there's no evidence in the case to support this speculation, then it is speculation, it is prejudicial, it's harmful, and it shouldn't come in. But I also think if she's, to whatever extent, for whatever reason, if she's filing false tax returns, that's a crime. And that's another crime, wrong, or bad act under 404B. And again, has zero relevance to whether or not Ms. Richins killed her husband. And so I object on all those grounds.
Okay, one step at a time. addressing these issues in the order that they were raised by defendant. Mr. Bloodworth asked the questions in a way that does not require or invite Ms. Carrington to speculate about what was going on in Ms. Richins' head, but speaks more broadly or generally based upon her education, training, and experience about why real estate investors in Ms. Richins' circumstances might benefit from making their tax returns look a certain way versus another. Any clarification on that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that resolves the speculation objection. Next, moving to the 404B issue, the court determines that evidence regarding the appearances that Ms. Richins was preserving regarding the success of her real estate investing business, circumstantial or direct, and evidence regarding the potential consequences that would flow if those appearances were shown to be without basis or not accurate, circumstantial or direct, are probative of a non-character purpose of showing motive. That is, that she, put bluntly, needed money to maintain appearances and to prevent the financial calamity that would show that these appearances were not accurate and the personal consequences that would flow from that. In so ruling, the court is summarizing the reasoning that it has already put forth in much more detail with citation to Utah law in its ruling on defendant's motions in limine and in its ruling on the state's motion for additional findings and conclusions regarding the intrinsic evidence issue. And the court incorporates by reference that reasoning those authorities. However, to make sure that the jury does not inadvertently and improperly revert to a propensity-based drawing of inferences, Ms. Nestor, do you want me to make another instruction that makes specific reference to the taxes?
Yes.
Okay, so may we agree that the court will give an additional instruction to the effect of, you are about to hear evidence that defendant's representations related to the tax returns of her business were not accurate, and then the standard form language after that.
Yes, sir.
Any objection, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Nestor, anything further on that issue?
No, sir.
All right, and then can we just take a look together at Rule 103B, which states that once the court rules definitively on the record, either before or after trial, a party need not renew an objection or offer of proof to preserve a claim of error for appeal. I respect genuinely that Ms. Richins disagrees strongly with many of the court's pretrial rulings. That disagreement has been preserved for the record. It will be reviewed on appeal. To the extent defense counsel is worried about having to reassert any of those objections, they need not do so under Rule 103B.
Totally respect what you're saying, Your Honor. My only concern is that as we litigated this, we did not go document by document and say, these documents are the ones we have problems with. These are the documents we're okay with. My understanding of our discussion earlier this morning, and I might be wrong, and please correct me, but my understanding was that I was supposed to let the court know when we get to the documents that I think fall under what we've talked about. There are documents in here, as I said this morning, that we don't have any problem with. Most of our demonstrative exhibits, you'll note, I'm not making objections to those. They're coming in sans objection.
But some you double down on regarding the Barney house. And so it's hard to tell whether you're just reasserting the objection every time or if you're choosing. And that's why on occasion I have to ask whether this is a new or different objection.
So I can try to do better about alerting the court if there's a new ground, but I'm still concerned because we don't have a ruling anywhere that I've said exhibit 632 falls under, we believe falls under the court's ruling and therefore falls under our objection. We've never done that. So the fear that I have, well, I totally agree. That's what Rule 103 says. I understand I can have a continuing objection, but the problem with that is we've never in any of our litigation said this set of documents.
Well, your motion in limine certainly did. It listed about 20 documents and then I denied it. So you know that those 20 are not a problem, but nonetheless, we are where we are.
Right.
So feel free to proceed as you are, but to the extent you want another specific ruling because you feel like we haven't discussed it before, you have to say more. Otherwise,
Understood.
I won't know what you're talking about.
Absolutely understood. So my intention for the record is to try to comply with the court's ruling not to have a speaking objection. When I say previous objections, I'm saying this document we believe falls under what you've already ruled on. If I have something that's new that I don't think you've ruled on at all, I will let the board know that.
I appreciate that.
Thank
you. Okay. Anybody need a break before we invite the jury back in? Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Nestor?
No, you're
Okay. Tasia, we're ready for the jury.
Not that he's getting tired of her objecting, but sometimes the objecting is like breaking up the flow of things, or then she throws something else in there and he's just like, can you please come up? Can you please come up? Can you please come up? So he's just like, all right, this is gonna be a 5-year trial. Get ready. Guess what? There's hope. At some point in time, the defense gets a turn. I sneaky peeked. So the defense is going to come up in just a little bit. So this is going to end at some point in time.
Additional
They're all going to,
instructions.
it's all going to end.
You are about to hear evidence that defendant's representations related to her business's tax returns were not accurate during the period of time before the acts charged in this case. This evidence is not admitted to prove a character trait of the defendant or to show that she acted in a manner consistent with that trait. You may consider this evidence, if at all, for the limited purpose of determining whether defendant had any particular motive. Please keep in mind that the defendant is on trial for the crimes charged in this case and for those crimes only. You may not convict the defendant simply because you believe she may have committed some other acts at some other time. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Carrington, let me pick up with that last question. Maybe we'll just answer it again to get back on track. Were Kay Richins Realty tax returns helpful in your understanding Kouri Richins' financial narrative?
And I answered yes and no, or yes or no. Yes, they were helpful to understand the fact that everything didn't match. The money that came out of the bank account that was spent was not reported the same on the tax returns. Well, let me say, was not reported the same to the tax preparer and therefore not accounted for correctly on the tax returns. And then no, because the same thing, that if the accounting is not reliable, that doesn't help me understand fully and accurately what was going on in her business.
Does this relate back to how you had to calculate expenses as it relates to Kouri Richins rehabbing homes?
Yes, that's along the same lines, yes.
And it's those expenses, or is it those expenses that were underreported to her tax accountant?
Well, there's that, but there's also the fact that the whole body of those loans we've just looked at was not included. And in looking at the tax preparer's documents that he relied on to put the tax returns together, it's clearly missing. None of those loans is listed as a liability against the revenues. And the documents also show that the only loans that he understood that Kay Richins Realty had and was obligated to repay were the loans based on that were related to the properties. So there's this huge category of $5 million, $500,000 of obligation, or $400,000 of obligation that was completely absent from any of the financial records that the tax preparer put together, and therefore was also missing from the tax return.
What was the effect of this inaccurate reporting on Kay Richins Realty's tax return?
So someone who, or a business that understates the expenses inflates the net income. So it makes it look like there's more profit than there actually was.
Wouldn't there be a tax advantage to having a business loss?
Yes, or having a lower net income, yes.
Setting Kouri Richins aside for a moment, based on your training and experience as a forensic accountant, why would a business person want to inaccurately, from a tax perspective, want to inaccurately report their expenses and end up paying more tax?
Most, I don't know. Most, if taxes, if expenses, revenues and expenses are reported correctly, there is a tax liability, assuming they made a profit. If those are understated and it makes it look like they made more profit, they would owe more tax. If the opposite were true, they would pay less tax. And so it depends on what that person's or business's objectives were.
What would a business objective be to want to pay more taxes?
Back to speculation.
Overrule.
To avoid showing a loss so that the business appeared more successful.
Why would a business similar to Kouri Richins, a business with a financial position similar to Kouri Richins' financial position want to appear more successful?
Well, if things had been reported accurately, she was operating at a loss. And so that would have been reflected, especially for 2021, that would have been reflected in an accurate tax return, would have shown a loss there. And during the time, especially the tax return that was prepared in the fall of 2021 that wasn't accurate, that's a time when she was actively seeking funding for, she acquired 3 new properties in November, and
Back to speculation.
Overrule.
factually speaking, she acquired 3 new properties in November of 2021, adding $1.1 million to her debt. She didn't pay anything toward those acquisitions, so she borrowed everything to acquire those properties. And in December is when she put the offer in on that big house. And so these are months that coincide with the inaccurate tax returns in which new projects were being acquired or contemplated, and funding was being sought for those.
Did you investigate whether Kouri and Eric Richins had any tax liabilities?
Yes,
Did they?
yes.
Do you know about how much?
I know at least number.
What is the at least number?
Let me back up. State tax liabilities, tax liens were about $70,000. And federal was about 80,000 at least. So 150,000 at least.
And were those a joint liability since they filed jointly?
That's correct.
Scott, can I get Exhibit 5-36? Are we frozen?
It's possible. Let me fix that. My apologies.
Or maybe it's a scroll down problem.
Oh boy. Okay, so because they filed jointly, they had tax liens. She said state about 70,000, federal 80,000. When do you think the cat might have been out of the bag that eventually Eric would have found out that just at a minimum that he was liable for $150,000 because they're jointly filing their taxes together, let alone her $7.5 million and counting realty business that she is in a hole. Wowzers.
Okay. Ma'am, do you recognize that document?
I do.
What is it?
This is the bank account statement from America First Credit Union for Kouri Richins, the personal checking account 5244 in May of 2021. This is directly from the credit union in response to a prosecution subpoena.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit 5-36.
Same objections.
5-36 is admitted.
Scott, if you could scroll down to the check. Yeah. Ms. Carrington, what is this?
This is a check from the C&E Stone Masonry account, and it's payable to Eric Richins, dated April 29th, 2021, for $36,000. And the memo on it indicates taxes TC-546. And that tells me that's a Utah State Tax Commission payment.
And based on your analysis, did C&E provide Eric and his business partner, Cody, for that matter, distributions in order to pay their taxes?
Check to hearsay.
I don't understand the hearsay objection there.
That's how she knows. They told her.
Why does lay some foundation for how she knows?
Did in reviewing the C&E accounting materials show that C&E distributed to both Cody and Eric Richins estimated tax payments?
Yes, no one has told me that, but I can see from reviewing all the bank accounts that there are pairs of transactions, and they are for Eric Richins and his business partner habitually over several years, and they are for different tax liabilities.
One moment. The hearsay objection is overruled. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, did you trace this check?
I did.
If we can go back to the main document, Scott. Can you show your tracing of this check?
Sure. Scott, if you can scroll down. Okay, right there. So mid-screen, you see April 30th, the deposited check item for $36,000 to go over there. And so that's that check. And they're included in this exhibit is the deposit slip. So I can match that up, plus the check copy came with this. So I know this is the same $36,000. And then sorry,
At the time that was deposited, what was the account's balance?
83 cents.
Okay. Can you pick up the tracing from there, please?
Yes. So in doing a tracing, I look at the balance at the time a specific transaction is made. And so then I have to match up, but for certain funds, other transactions would not clear the bank. So the following transaction $1,000 to go over there. And so that's that check. And they're included in this exhibit is the deposit slip. So I can match that up, plus the check copy came with this. So I know this is the same $36,000. And then sorry,
At the time that was deposited, what was the account's balance?
83 cents.
Okay. Can you pick up the tracing from there, please?
Yes. So in doing a tracing, I look at the balance at the time a specific transaction is made. And so then I have to match up, but for certain funds, other transactions would not clear the bank. So the following transaction is April 30th, that bank-to-bank transfer of $25,000 could not have been made but for the deposit of that $36,000. So I know those have to tie together. So then I'm looking for what other information will tell me that deduction of $25,000.
And where did that $25,000 land?
It's a wire out that goes to Stewart Title's Bank of Nevada, I believe.
Scott, can you go back to the main document and scroll down, please? No, I'm sorry, down a page.
No, keep going to the wire. This one, please. Sorry.
Ms. Carrington, what information does this provide?
So this, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, it's a domestic outbound. So this is a wire that it's going out of the account. If you go down the left-hand column, it shows you $25,000. If you go to the middle column, it's from Kouri Richins. Right above her name is the account number 5244. And over on the right, it says it goes to Stewart Title Company. And then go down to the bottom left, and it says earnest money, Kouri Richins. Earnest money being kind of a deposit on a purchase of a property.
Thank you, Scott. Can we turn now, please, to a property that you referenced as Legacy Way that others have referenced as the Midway Mansion?
Yes,
Are you familiar with the property?
I am.
How so?
I have been by it several times over the last 3 years, and I have researched the recorder's documents, the deeds affiliated with that. I have submitted a grandma request, which is a request for government records so that I could understand all the Wasatch County building permit, the inspection records over the years, the life of that property. I have interviewed the prior owner before Kouri Richins bought it. I've interviewed the current owners. I've traced all the, after Kouri Richins bought it, tried to sell it, I have reviewed each of those 13 offers to purchase the property. And I've also looked at the bank accounts and the loan documents for her purchase.
Let's please start with the drive-by. Scott, can I get 6-7? Do you recognize this?
I do.
Is that the Midway Mansion?
It is.
State moves to admit 6-7.
No objection.
6-7 is admitted.
Scott, can you zoom in a bit? Scott, can I get 6-8, please? Ms. Carrington, do you recognize this document?
I do.
What is it?
This is the real estate purchase contract, commonly known as a REPC, that K. Richins Realty submitted to as her offer to buy the property in December of 2021.
The state moves to admit 6-8.
No objection.
6-8 is admitted.
Scott, if you could zoom in, please, on that first kind of top section. Ms. Carrington, what information does this provide?
So this tells us in the far upper corner, this is Sierra, and that's the bait stamp that identifies that this came from Sierra West Capital, Matt Strong being the primary lender. It gives, and then if you go first line kind of over on the left, 2/23/2021 is the date. K. Richins Realty is the buyer. Douglas Roy Lance is the seller. And then a couple lines down on the right, it says the earnest money deposit of $50,000. And then as you go down, it gives the street address is 106 North Legacy. That's why I call it Legacy Way. It's in Midway. That's why people call it the Midway Mansion. And then the parcel number, et cetera.
Then it says C addendum. We'll get to that one in a minute. But Scott, if you can scroll down. What information does the purchase price paragraph provide?
So it tells us what the agreed purchase, well, the offered purchase price is $2.9 million for this property. And then the accounting on the left shows that there's a $50,000 deposit. And then the balance will be paid at settlement, and then the purchase price there. And then I know that this is accepted because it's got initials on both and the dates on both, the buyer and seller.
Scott, can you just scroll down all the way through the next page? Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Let's stop there. Thank you. Let's zoom in on the contract deadlines through the signature. Yep. Thank you. Ms. Carrington, what information does this provide?
So this gives a chronology of different steps that need to be taken. It's very typical in every transaction, most transactions. Sellers have a duty to disclose any of the warts and problems with the house. Those are due by January 7th of 22. Due diligence means that's the opportunity for the seller, or excuse me, that's an opportunity for the potential buyer to do any homework, anything that they need to do as far as due diligence before they sign. That's due February 4th. Financing and appraisals, that's also for the buyer to arrange financing, funding, do any appraisals that they want to do, and they have until January 7th to do that. And the settlement deadline, that means this deal has to close by March 4th of 2022.
Does that March 4th date hold any significance in this case?
Yes, it does.
What's that?
That's the day that this property deal closed and Kouri Richins purchased this house.
Did she purchase it on March 4th or March 5th?
I'm sorry, March 5th. March 4th is the date that Eric Richins died.
Thank you. Let's discuss the warts and problems, please. Scott, if we can go down to the, just keep it up, zoomed out right there. Is that the addendum that was referred to earlier?
Yes, it is. Addendum 1.
Okay, I'm going to walk up and present you with a printed copy of 6-8. And this is the addendum on my right that discloses all the warts and problems.
Yes.
I've circled a few of the paragraphs on that disclosure, that addendum. Can you please read those paragraphs aloud to the jury?
Okay. Bear with me. This is paragraph 2. Buyer is to acknowledge and affirm and agrees that these parcels, parcel 1, parcel 2, are sold as is. Buyer acknowledges, affirms, and agrees that both building structures have extensive vandalism, theft, as well as flooring and other structural concerns that may need or will require replacement or repair. Due to delays in construction and the permitting/approval process, the structures have been idle, exposed to the elements, and are not habitable, and are also suitable in many ways for continued construction. Damage has occurred because of the idle status of the projects. Buyer affirms buyer's intent in moving forward with the building project or abandon the project altogether based on buyer's own investigation of said structures in their state of idleness, disrepair, unfinished, and uninhabitable quality. Additionally, animals may have taken up residence in the ventilation systems for which there may be additional damage. Buyer acknowledges and affirms that buyer accepts the property in its unfinished, disassembled, unrepaired, damaged state, and agrees to confirm through buyer's own due diligence which repairs and remediation efforts are necessary. Buyer acknowledges and affirms buyer's own actual or potential costs of repair, remediation, demolition, remodel, restart, reconstruction, and or completion in moving forward with the building projects. Buyer agrees to purchase and accept the parcels, buildings, structures, and all aspects of the purchase of said parcels on an as-is basis and waives and releases any and all claims against seller or any deficiency, unexpected outcome, or unknown condition, cost, delay, failure, or liability. Paragraph 3. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that sale of said property is sold without all or necessary or desired permits, certificates, or allowances to build or complete the building process from Wasatch County or other governmental agencies. And buyer is and buyer is to be solely responsible for obtaining any required building permits from Wasatch County or any other necessary government entity. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that seller's building process was halted by the governmental permitting or allowance process, and as such, buyer intends to purchase these parcels as is, with full understanding that buyer may also face challenges and costs in obtaining necessary or desired permitting allowances to build, rebuild, or complete the building and occupancy process. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the structures do not have certificates of occupancy, necessary approvals through all required inspections, and other indicators of structural habitability. Paragraph 4. Buyer acknowledges that seller has been working with the Army Corps of Engineers over a lengthy period of time, and that this entity is currently requiring additional wetlands evaluation of various materials, including water, environmental, etc. The Army Corps of Engineers may require other tests, requirements, and certifications, etc.
Holy crap. Holy crap. If you've ever bought a home or sold a home, right? You do your due diligence. Even if you're flipping it, right? You do your due diligence. Am I going to be able to get the permits and stuff required in order to do the rehab, flip, or whatever of this property, right? There was one time I was thinking about purchasing a house, and it was by some wetlands and also not too far from a railroad track. And I was like, well, what are these wetlands? And then you look very, very closely at the agreements, the property, etc. And it was sort of like I forget the name of it, but it was like a flood zone area, right? And I'm like, there's like a divot of land that's sort of like for retention. And I thought, oh, no way, Jose, because, every once in a while you might have it might hold the water and retain that. But, like every 7 years, there's like the plague. And I was like, I don't want to be underwater in my house. So I said, no way, no way. Plus it was by a railroad. And I was like, I'm not living by a railroad. And so, first of all, red flag number 1, I mean, there are a gazillion red flags prior to this. Like, you don't have the money to purchase this, so I don't know why you're doing this. Secondly, it says, look, we've been having problems getting permits. You're going to have problems getting permits. Plus, it talks about what's currently, right now, it's just the bones of the house, and that critters and stuff might have gotten in there. It's been vandalized. So you're going to be rehabbing the rehab. And then now you have this. the Army Corps of Engineers. And if you do not have a governmental, like, why did they build it in the first place? Probably are like, we're just going to build it and ask for permission later. And they're like, no, no, no. Girl, you are screwed. You are
that are
up
to be completed to their satisfaction. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the Army Corps is an independent government entity separate of Wasatch County, and that the Army Corps may require its own permitting, which Wasatch County may also require in order to obtain building permits. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the Army Corps of Engineers does not monitor or collaborate with Wasatch County in any way. Wasatch County may or may not issue building permits independent of the Army Corps of Engineers. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that buyer, not seller, is responsible for moving forward with the Army Corps of Engineers and all other governmental organizations that may have oversight
Oh
or
my
control of the
gosh.
parcels and building projects and occupancy.
That is an uphill battle that she doesn't have any money, right? Because in the end she said she doesn't have any money to rehab this.
Certification
What the hell is she going to
processes.
do now?
Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the process of moving forward could take considerable time, present costs, delays, hardships, and burdens to buyer. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that buyer does not require any
Okay.
contribution from or assistance of seller with regard to obtaining all necessary permits, certificates, allowances, or approvals to restart the building process or complete said process and obtain all necessary inspections, approvals, certificates, permits, or allowances. Paragraph 5. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the parcels have sewer rights, but that the sewer is not yet hooked up, is below grade, and will have to be pumped. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms all necessary steps to obtain sewer function is the responsibility of the buyer and may be required to be on site on the subject parcels. Paragraph 6. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that additional or dedicated open space, i.e. wetlands, or other required remediation or mitigation may or will be required by the Army Corps of Engineers, and that to achieve mitigation or remediation, additional properties may be required for such. Thus, a potential offsite property may be obtained by the buyer. And if not on an additional offsite property, then remediation or mitigation may or will be on site the subject parcels. There is a mitigation process that will need to be coordinated with the Army Corps of Engineers. Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that there may or will be costs related to preparing lands to offset any disturbed wetlands. An outside consultant with BioWest has collected data and submitted data and recommendations to the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers still need to make its final decisions and will determine a mitigation plan with permits in cooperation with buyer.
If looks
Paragraph
could
12.
kill.
Buyer acknowledges, understands, and affirms that the Army Corps of
What's the saying? If looks could kill, they probably will. Games without frontiers, war without fear, or war without. I probably messed it up. If looks could kill, they probably will. Games without frontiers, war without tears. Is that it? Okay, let's see. I don't know what the names of it. We'll continue this.
Engineers may or will require further evaluation and study of wetlands underneath mounds of fill soil on the parcels. So seller will provide access to buyer's consultants or any other third parties related to studying groundwater or soils for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Carrington, in your experience reviewing REPSIs, have you ever reviewed a REPSI like that?
No.
If looks could kill, they probably will. In games without frontier, war without tears. Okay.
Scott, can you please bring up 6-9? I will retrieve the exhibit. Thank you, ma'am.
You ever seen an agreement like this?
Recognize
No.
exhibit 6-9?
I do.
What is it?
This is the settlement statement for the Legacy Way Midway Mansion property, where K. Richins Realty is the buyer and Douglas Roylance is the seller. And this is the final version of the sale.
State moves to admit 6-9.
No objection.
6-9 is admitted.
Ms. Carrington, what information does this present? And if it's easier to step down, please do it. I don't know what's easiest.
It might be since I don't have a. Okay, this is not actually as complicated as it appears. So this is the property address here, the buyer, the seller, and the lender is Sierra West Capital. So that's the Sierra West Matt Strong stuff. Then over here shows the settlement date and the disbursement date as March 4th of 22. And then this is the internal file number at the title company. This shows the sale price. This is the buyer's version. There is a seller's version, but this is the buyer's version. This is the sale price of the property at $2.9 million. And then here shows 2 of the 4 loans on this property. So here's the original loan from Sierra West to this $2,624,850. There's another lender
Ow.
from the Burns, and that loan is $420,000. These are some prorations. This section here, are you all right if I keep going?
Please, what's that section there?
This section, these are the fees associated with these loans. So the first position lender is Sierra West Capital, this $2.6 million loan. They charged $124,850 at the outset just for the loan. And then on top of that, it accrues interest going forward. It's a 6-month balloon. So this being March 4th of 22, she has to pay that off by September 4th of 2022.
How?
The next two, the $150 and the $20,000 relate to this loan, the $420,000 by the Burns. And then Scott, could you please scroll down? Thank you. That's great. So then here, these are the title insurance costs that are paid to GT Title Services, who's the title company in this transaction. So these are the different costs associated with that. So the first one, the lender's coverage premium, that's for the first position, the Sierra West one. Second position is the Burns, the $420,000 one. The third position loan is going to be this. For some reason, this is down here. I don't know why, but this third position lender funds is $150,000. That's an aggregation of a bunch of people who got together and they pooled their resources to loan $150,000 on this deal. And here is the buyer's portion of the real estate commissions, the 2% at $58,000. The other side paid $1,000 per their agreement, and then some recording fees. On top of this, there's one more loan from David Cocker Hands that came in before this. He gave her the money for the earnest money. So did Matt Strong. So they both gave her the $50,000 for the earnest money. But later, the fourth position lender of $67,000 recorded his deed. I don't understand why it's not incorporated here, but it's not, but it is still attached and recorded on the property. So this tells us that all in all, there needs to be $3,201,230 that the buyer needs to come up with. And as I said, there's also that other $67,000. So she borrowed $3,259,000 against this property to buy it for $2.9 million. And then there was a little overage. And so this $87,240 came back to her. And we can see that go back to her bank account, and that hits her bank account.
So does this show that she borrowed $3.2 million from other people to close on a $2.9 million house, and that closing she walked away with $80,000?
$87,000, yes.
On the day that the Midway Mansion closed, how much was it worth?
$2.9 million, because that's what she paid for it. That was the agreed price on that for that transaction.
Is it worth? Is the real estate market like other markets in that the value of something, whether it's gold, oil, real estate, the true value on any given day is what a willing buyer and willing seller agree to?
Yes, and so in addition to the fact that that's what the market dictates, the IRS rules also say that a transaction is valued between a willing seller and a willing buyer, and industries function like that all the time. Business valuation, a forensic accountant who conducts a business valuation of a business will use that same concept.
Did you use that same concept in valuing all the properties involved in this case?
I did, because that's what she paid for them.
Scott, can we get 5-114, please?
Sure.
Bless you. Ma'am, do you recognize this agreement?
I do.
What is it?
It is a loan agreement reflecting that large loan between Sierra West Capital and K. Richins Realty. And this was a response from the title company, Griffith and Turner Title, in response to a prosecution subpoena.
Your Honor, the state moves 5-114 into evidence.
No objection.
5-114 is admitted.
And just, Scott, yeah, perfect. So this is, am I right? Is this the loan agreement between K. Richins Realty and Sierra West for the Midway Mansion?
It is.
And Sierra West was the biggest lender at $2.6 million.
That's right. Yes.
Scott, could you just scroll down on page 1? Scott, could you go to page 12, please? And is this part of what is, are we looking at what is known generally as a closing packet?
Yes, that would be consistent. Yes.
These are the closing documents on the Midway Mansion, at least this, the closing documents for the largest funder on the Midway Mansion.
That's right. Yes.
And is this the signature page?
Yes, it is.
And is that signature notarized on the 5th of March?
Yes, that's correct.
Scott, can you go to page 21, please? Is this another different signature page?
Yes, this one is basically acknowledging that the company that's buying this authorizes Kouri D. Richins to act on its behalf.
Scott, can you go to 27, please? Is this yet another signature page in the closing documents?
Yes.
Can you go to 32, Scott? I'm sorry, yeah, let's go to 32. 32. Is that yet another signature page in the closing documents?
Yes.
And 33, Scott? Ms. Carrington, is that yet another notarized signature page in the closing documents?
It is.
Thanks, Scott. Ms. Carrington, based on your analysis, did Ms. Richins have the ability to service the $3.2 million in debt when it came due in 6 months from closing?
She did not.
Scott, can I get 2-14, please?
She had 83 cents in her account.
Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
I do.
What is it?
It's an email string between Matt Strong and Kouri Richins that was returned pursuant to a prosecution subpoena from Sierra West Capital and Matt Strong.
And does this email string in part discuss how much money Kouri Richins estimated would be required to finish the Midway Mansion? We can scroll through it.
Yes. This is the one where she's asking him to loan her the earnest money, the $50,000 for the project.
In part, yes.
Right.
The state moves to admit 2-14.
No objection.
2-14 is admitted.
Scott, can you publish that part you had highlighted on our screens?
Scott, let me know when you're ready. Okay.
I'm gonna give.
Okay, it says, Paul Benson knows his stuff. He's selling Park City property right now for $42 million, and he got 5 others the first week. Insane. 5 offers the first week. So this property buying for $2 now, and then $3,000 and reno, ARV $16,000. Absolutely insane numbers. Somebody's going to make a killing on this. That's where I need your help. Thoughts, ideas. Realistically, obviously, I don't have $3 million for renovations. Coming up with 2.9 is going to be a challenge enough. So what should I do with this? Do you think I should wholesale it at a county assets price? Do you think I should close on it? Let's do something with it. Not just sure what. Maybe your Heber guy would want to buy it as is from me and have him remodel it with MCC, double close, or assign it over to him with the $50K. If you can make it work, awesome. If you can't, that's fine too. You do what you're comfortable doing. Numbers are tight on this one. Okay.
have or have access to $3 million to renovate the Midway Mansion?
Objection, Your Honor. That's not consistent with what he just admitted.
It's a different question. Can you please restate it? Make sure we're listening to the question that he asked. If you'd say it again.
Ms. Carrington, based upon your financial analysis, did Ms. Richins have or have access to $3 million for renovations of the Midway Mansion?
Not that I,
Hold on. What was your objection?
Same objection, Your Honor. He's misstating what's in front of him as far as the
His
evidence.
question does not relate to this. Any other objections?
No, sir.
Overruled. Go ahead.
not that I'm aware of.
No.
Thanks, Scott. Ms. Carrington, did you
Kouri.
investigate or try to trace any money flowing to the Midway Mansion project once Kouri Richins closed on it?
I did look, yes.
Did you find any money flowing to that project?
I did not find any money flowing to that project. There's one that is a maybe.
Okay.
But no, nothing significant.
What's the maybe?
It's in the neighborhood of about $3,000, I think. It's in that, the reason it's a maybe, is that your question? The reason it's a maybe is it's during that time frame, and it's to an entity that, and I'm sorry, I really can't remember which entity, but there's one that I thought might relate to this project, looking for, what she usually does when she acquires a project, she moves forward. And so I'm thinking she probably does the same thing here. There's one that I recall fits that category, but it's minimal.
So at most, she, as best you can tell, invested maybe $3,000 into the Midway Mansion.
That's correct.
Did you investigate whether Kouri Richins tried to sell the Midway Mansion?
Yes.
Did she?
Yes, she did.
When?
She listed the property on March 12th of 2022, so the week following her acquisition of it.
That's also a week and a day following Eric Richins' death, right?
That's true.
Did Kouri Richins ever sell the property?
She did not.
What ultimately happened to the property?
After 12 offers that were made and canceled for one reason or another, actually, let me restate that, please. After, I believe there are 7 or 8 that were offered before her note was due. And then after that, she continued to try to sell it unsuccessfully. And at some point, the lender, Matt Strong, foreclosed or recorded a notion, he recorded a document, notice of default and election to sell. So basically started the foreclosure process.
And did the 12 failed contracts all fail during the diligence period?
Yes, they did.
In the months leading up to Eric Richins' death, what categories of assets did Kouri Richins have?
Categories of assets that Kouri Richins had. She owned several properties. So that's one class of assets. She had financial accounts, and those were various balances.
On March the 5th, 2022, immediately after closing on the Midway Mansion, what was the value of Kouri Richins' assets?
Including the new property, it was about 6.3 or 6.4 million.
In the months leading up to Eric Richins' death, what categories of liabilities did Kouri Richins have?
So liabilities are things that she owes. So she had a loan on the properties, each of the properties that she owned, and each of those was more than the property was worth. She also had all those payday loans that we've talked about, and she also had different lines of credit that were by and large all maxed out, not just the HELOC, but also she had some personal lines of credit associated with her checking accounts. Those were all maxed out, and she also had credit cards that had high balances.
On March the 5th, 2022, immediately after closing on the Midway Mansion, what was the amount of Kouri Richins' liabilities?
Right about $8 million.
So netting that out, on March the 5th, 2022, after closing on the Midway Mansions, what was Kouri Richins' net worth?
She was in the hole. She was negative 1.6 million.
As a forensic accountant, have you formed an opinion as to Kouri Richins' financial position on March the 5th, 2022, after closing on the Midway Mansion?
Yes.
What is your opinion?
As of the date that Eric Richins died, Kouri Richins was in financial distress, and her financial enterprise was collapsing, had been collapsing, and but for a significant infusion of cash and capital, would have continued to collapse. It was imploding. Her debts and liabilities far outweighed her assets, and even if she had sold everything she had, it would not have been enough to get back to zero.
Let's turn briefly to Eric Richins' estate. Did you analyze the value of Eric Richins' estate?
Yes.
What material did you study in this analysis?
The insurance policies, the life insurance policies, including there's a life insurance two life insurance policies that Eric and his business partner had on each other. So there's the company, the documents that relate to that, the bank accounts, the documents related to the house where the family lived, and his bank account statements.
Are the bank accounts de minimis in relation to Eric's interest in C&E, his life insurance, and his home?
Pretty much, yes.
Let's set those aside then.
Right.
How is Eric Richins' interest in C&E, or how was Eric Richins' interest in C&E determined upon his death?
It's based on the value of those life insurance policies. So it's basically $2 million.
It's exactly $2 million, wasn't it?
It's exactly $2 million, yes.
Scott, can I get 7-28 Delta? Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
I do.
Did you prepare it?
I did.
What material did you use to prepare it?
The insurance policies of each of these insurance policies, the applications for a couple of them, the claim information, and also the payout of these policies.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit 7-28D.
Objection.
7-28D is admitted.
Ma'am, what again is this?
This is just a simple list of the different life insurance policies. I have not included the buy-sell agreement policies, the $2 million that benefited Eric's business partner, but these are the others.
Scott, if you could please highlight the claim paid, the policy amount column. Does this show that Eric Richins had $2.2 essentially $1 million in insurance upon his life?
Yes.
Scott, can you go to the claim amount paid? What information, ma'am, does this column present?
So for each of these policies, there was a specific amount paid. Like the top one is related to the house, and so it paid 70% of the existing mortgage, not the second, but the first. The things that I've highlighted in green are the 3 policies that were paid directly to Kouri Richins. The others were paid, the $500,000 was paid to the Eric Richins Trust.
We'll come back. So, well, summing up the amounts of insurance paid to Kouri Richins, is that $1.36 million?
That's correct.
Thank you, Scott. We spoke earlier about Eric Richins' premarital home.
Yes.
What was the approximate value of that home?
I think it was about $1 million, give or take.
And it was encumbered by the $250,000 HELOC that Kouri Richins signed for.
That's correct.
And was there an outstanding mortgage that was 70% satisfied by life insurance?
That's right.
We talked about the $1.3 million in life insurance proceeds that Kouri Richins received upon Eric Richins' death. Did you trace how she used those proceeds?
I did.
Scott, can you bring up 7-31D? Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
I do.
Did you prepare it?
I did.
What material did you use to prepare it?
I looked at Kouri Richins' America First Credit Union accounts, and also Kouri Richins' UCCU account where she deposited $1 million. And I guess that's it.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit 7-31D.
No objection.
State 7-31D is admitted.
What, ma'am, does this present?
So on another schedule, I've listed every single transaction that I've traced back to the 3 deposits of insurance proceeds. And so the first line of this shows on June 16th, 2022, she got a little over $1 million from the auto owner's life insurance policy. And what I sought to show is before the money came in, or as the money came in, how much was in her accounts. So she had $543,000. I'm sorry, let me back up. She got the $1 million in. And then the next one down on June 25th, the $251,000 that comes in. When that comes in, what was the balance in her account before the second policy was paid? And she had $543,000 in that account. So basically she spent that half of the $1 million between the 16th and the 24th. And then on September 2nd, if you go to the third one that's paid, is that $100,000 policy got paid. And that's when she received those proceeds. And what was in her account the day before was $9,691. So that meant that she had spent the 1.2 million basically before she got that last 100,000. And then that final line on September 19th, she had $802 in her account. So that's just a look at the balances. And then I have looked at every transaction in these accounts to show, to try to understand how those proceeds were used.
We'll turn there next, but let me just make sure we understand this.
Okay.
So does this show that between June and September, 3 months between June and September, she received $1.36 million in life insurance proceeds and spent $1.36 million in life insurance?
That's what the bank account shows, and this is drawn from the bank accounts.
Thank you. Scott, can you bring up 7-29D, please?
Your Honor, we're frozen.
My apologies. Let's reset.
As soon as she got it, she yeeted it. Well, she had to. She had
I need you to
she had no choice.
plug back in, Scott. Oh, there you are. I apologize.
She had no choice
All right, one
but to spend it.
7-29D is visible to the witness.
Ms. Carrington, did you prepare this document?
I did.
What material did you use to prepare it?
The bank accounts that I just spoke of, the America First Credit Union accounts, and also the UCCU account.
Your Honor, the state moves 7-29D into evidence.
Sorry, can we just blow up the very tippy top of it, just so I can see the label on it? Thank you. No objection.
And sorry, 7-29B is admitted.
And then Scott, can you split screen the 2 pages? Now, Ms. Carrington, am I right that it doesn't really read left to right, it reads top to bottom?
It's a vertical, yes,
So this page on the right is really right down here.
that's correct.
Okay, what information does this demonstrative present?
So I wanted to portray the funds that came in from Eric's death, and I've highlighted, or I've put in bold the different life insurance policies, proceeds that came in, and then the way those were spent. I have taken everything over $1,000 to try and be brief. Obviously, this isn't brief, but so there are a lot of transactions for, whatever, $700 or $43. Those are not on here. So anything over 1,000 is on.
And Scott, if you could go down to the very bottom, so the very bottom of page 2. What information does this present?
So this shows even without putting those de minimis transactions in there, there's 1.3, almost 1.4 use of the proceeds, or that came in, and she spent the 1.2. So she spent it all. And then my footnotes here, I attempted to do the same thing that was in that other section, my footnote 2. These are the different accounts that she had And these are the account balances when the new insurance comes in.
Now let's just highlight, Scott, maybe the far left column on the first page. Perfect. So that shows where, when she gets a $1 million life insurance payment into the account, you then detail where it goes.
That's right.
And those are all the transactions below it.
That's right. And so you can see the money comes in, and there are some expenses for projects. There are expenses to pay debt, Figure Lending, Greengrass Holding, the One Main Financial. But I can see things that do relate to what I'm thinking are projects like Rocky Mountain Dirt, Home Depot, Lowe's, et cetera, et cetera. And then you see on 6/4/22, those 5 transactions to the Utah State Tax Commission. And especially on the right, Scott, can you see that bottom one? 6/4/2022, Utah State Tax Commission, and go over, and it's $50,000, $342. Thank you, that one. That matches one of the tax liens, the state tax liens that I was talking about earlier. So that's one of them. And those other amounts could be for the other 20,000, or it could be for something else, but one way or another, those tax payments.
You see that entry on 6/24/22 to Robert Grossman for $25,000?
Yes.
Are you familiar with who Robert Grossman is?
Yes, he's Robert Josh Grossman. Josh Grossman, I understand, was Kouri Richins' boyfriend during this time.
I'm sorry, what? What? The meme of I just hallucinated. What? $25,000 to your boyfriend? Ma'am, you got some explaining to do. You don't got no money. What about your kids? Oh, no. No. Mr. Bloodworth, you
Thank
saved
you,
that
ma'am.
one.
When you analyze
You saved that
how
one.
the $1.3 million in insurance proceeds
No.
were dispersed, approximately how much of that $1.3 million were used to pay debt?
About 600,000, somewhere in there. So about half, a little less than half was used to pay debt.
Thank you, ma'am. I think that's all I have for now. I suspect we're going to take a break, and the defense will have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Nestor, any objection to taking a break?
No, sir.
Okay.
Ma'am. Only. Wait, did he? Hang on. I need to get that again. Hold on.
How much of that $1.3 million were used to pay debt?
About 600,000.
Okay.
Some.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to begin. I'm so like, holy smokes. Like, wow, this woman did a lot of work, right? She forged bank documents 7 times. She had nothing to rehab, no money left to rehab the Midway mansion. She had tax liens about $7,000 in state and $80,000 in federal. Now, whether or not that was paid out in the $1 million, she doesn't know. She can't tell you. She just says taxes. And is it taxes on the life insurance, right? Don't you have to, like when you win the lottery, you have to pay taxes on this. Don't you have to pay taxes on life insurance? I don't know. Oh my gosh. So then she buys the Midway mansion, and she is, I mean, her liability, she's negative $1.6 million in negative liability, but that's just, I mean, that's not to say all of the reoccurring loans and everything every month as to what she has to pay. And of course, then she buys the Midway mansion. You heard all about that and all of its problems, etc. She tries to sell it, but for some reason she doesn't. Maybe because they didn't offer her as much as she paid for it. And then she blew all of the money from the life insurance and paid Josh Grossman $25,000. I can't. Oh, you wanted, I mean, come on, right? Holy smokes. She took all the money. Wow. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop this here because it's an hour and 36 minutes. And we'll pick up, actually, I'm going to pick up tomorrow where the defense is back on. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm just speechless and dumbfounded. I have no words. It's been a long day of financial stuff. And I mean, does this woman have a conscience, right? What is she trying to accomplish? And she's just lying. She's lying to her lenders. She's obviously lying to her husband. She's lying to her friends. You don't think that your web of lies are going to catch up to you? Girl, how did you sleep at night? That's got to be weighing on you. Maybe that's why she needed the pills. Maybe that's why she got the pills, because she needed something to help her numb herself. Dude, she's a terrible accountant. She's a terrible business owner. Do you not see oh my gosh. Do you not see your bank statements and see that you're like at a zero balance? All right, I have to end. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks for watching Legalese 123. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for more content.